Hello and welcome back to Character Rigging for Beginners. This is part 8. We're going to be talking about setting up our controls for our fingers and finishing up the hand and finishing up our arm. In the last one we covered the IK-FK switch, which turned out really nice, but we have not set up anything to control our IK on our arm. So we're going to be talking about that and setting up our controls for our fingers. So you'll see many different types of controls for fingers. We're going to go with a pretty simple standard FK chain setup, just similar to like what we did with the controls for our spine, but we're going to be doing it on each of the joints for the fingers. Okay. So we will go down and we're going to make our own control here. So I'm going to go up to my Create and Curve tools, and I'm going to use the EP Curve tool right here. And underneath my tool settings, I'm going to change this to linear, and then I can just start drawing right on the grid. So I'll hold down X to snap each of the points to a grid point, and snap one here, then one up here, over to here, and I'm just going to make this little diamond shape. Okay, so I've got this nice little curve here, and of course I want to group that to itself. So I have a group to use to orient my control to the same orientation as the joints that they'll be controlling. So I'm gonna duplicate several of these. Okay, and we're gonna start setting these up. So the first one that we're gonna deal with is here with our thumb, this first knuckle here. So I'll just name these real quickly. Name this the left thumb underscore knuckle underscore capital C for control. And I will copy that and paste it onto its parent group. So that. Here we go. Paste that on there and append underscore GRP. So I know it's its group. And then I'm going to take that, and I need to get the orientation from my joint over there. So do it similar as we did other controls. We are going to select the joint. So this left thumb cup skin joint here that I have, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to select by hitting Control, select in my outliner over here, the left thumb knuckle group. And I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to come up underneath my rigging tab and go over to constrain, and I'm going to add a parent constraint, and I'm going to turn off my maintain offset. I'll turn that off, leave everything else on, and hit apply, and that will automatically snap that control right up here and gives it the same orientation. Okay, we just needed it to get that. We don't need that anymore, so we're going to delete. In our outliner, we're going to delete that parent constraint node, just like that. Okay, and now our control, which still has zeroed out values, has the orientation that we're looking for, and we're just going to select our control and shift select that thumb joint there and create another constraint, and this time we'll keep maintain offset on. Even though it wouldn't do anything because they have the same orientation and position, nothing would change, but we'll just keep it there because the maintain offset is typically what you usually want. So we'll hit apply on that. Close that, and we've got our constraint. We'll change it to shortest for the interpolation type on that parent constraint. And then obviously our control is really, really big. So we'll hit F8 to go into the control vertices of our shape, and we'll select all of them. And then we're going to scale that down. So right now it's set over here. If I press and hold my R key and then click, then I can come down to the scale object from the center. And now everything will scale from here. So I'll scale that down, and then I can leave it this way, or I can rotate it up. I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I think that's pretty good. Okay. So we will click F8 to get back out of that. So we have this, and it is controlling our thumb. Hooray! Excellent. So, and then we can translate if we need to, and rotate, which is nice. Okay. Now there's so many different ways that I've seen fingers and hands done. So I'm going to show you just this normal, straightforward FK setup here, and one other version. And I'll let you decide which one you prefer, which one you like. And one will give you a lot more control, and the other one will give you pretty much the functionality you're going to be wanting like 97% of the time. So kind of up to you. But we have this first one here, so obviously we need a second one for that mid-knuckle. So we'll select our next curve here, and we'll name this our left thumb mid underscore C for control, and then we'll copy that and paste that onto its parent group. Keep doing that. Okay, there is that, and then we'll append an underscore GRP for the group, and then we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to come up, we're going to find that joint that we're going to have this controlling, and we're going to select that left thumb mid control group in our outliner. So by hitting control and clicking down, that selects both of them. And then we'll go back into our constraint and parent constraint and turn off maintain offset, just like we did on the last one, and hit apply. And that pushes that right up here. And then we're going to go in and find that parent constraint node, which is just a child of that group, and we'll delete it. And so we have that. Now we need to create a constraint for our control to the joint. So we'll select that and hit apply, and then we're going to shrink these again. So say move that down and hit F8 again and get out of that component mode, back to object mode here. And now we want this obviously as a hierarchy. It's not going to work having them disjointed like this. So we're going to take the group of this, because we want to keep the orientation to keep our handle the same. So we will select the group, and then we'll shift select the control. So it's group to control of its parent, basically. So we'll shift select that and hit P, and then that is now set up in an FK mode. If we select that left thumb knuckle, it moves both of them. And then here's our mid joint. Excellent. Which moves along with it as well. Okay, so one last one, right, for the tip. So we'll come back to our controls that we've made, and we'll select our next curve, and we'll call this one our left thumb tip underscore C control. And then we will do the same thing. We'll copy this, and then we'll paste it, and append an underscore GRP for its parent group, just like that. And then we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to go up, we're going to select that tip, and then come back into our outliner and select the group of that control that we just named. And we're going to turn off our maintain offset underneath our parent constraint options and hit apply. And then we're going to go back to our outliner. We're going to delete that parent constraint. We don't need it anymore. Sweet. Okay, now we can select our control and then shift select our joint. And you'll notice I can leave it with that maintain offset on or off, sorry. And then it's not going to move that joint or anything because they have the same exact orientation and position. So don't have to worry about any of that. And then we're going to scale this down as well. So select all this, hit R for scale, and we'll knock that down. Okay. So we've got these, and now we need to make this part of that joint chain so that it will follow with its parent, which right now it is not. Okay, so same thing. We want our group over here to come up to that left mid control, and we're going to parent that. So we select our group, then we shift select the control, and we hit P to parent. So now that is part of that hierarchy. Okay, now normally what we do is we just keep parenting these chains down the line of the controls, right? But we can't do that on the hand because we have our IK-FK switch, right? So we can't actually parent these to the wrist control here on our FK, because as soon as we switch to IK and we move it around, all these are going to stay put. They're not going to follow it. And we don't really want that at all. So we've already set it up here on our switch so that it follows. It's being parent constrained by the wrist here, by the skinned wrist, which is going to go around and follow everywhere, no matter what joint chain or IK or FK version you're using for your arm. This control always follows behind. So what we can do is real simply, since that is already set up, we can grab this, right? And we want its group because we want to keep its orientation. So clicking up to its group, and then we can just simply parent it to this control here. Right, and we've already locked out all the channels here, so we can't actually move that anywhere. But as we move this around and rotate this, this moves, these thumb controls move just as we would expect them to, right? So this is a basic FK setup, and we could go in and change the color of these really quick underneath the attribute editor for each of these. There is an object display, drawing overrides, enable overrides, and we could pick a color like blue. We can do the same thing with each of these. Blue for left. Okay. Right, and it gives them a little bit of color there. Now, we can keep doing this, and this is totally fine. There's a lot of control that the animator has with these controls, because we can rotate, we can really break the fingers however which way we want, and our animator can use it in a whole myriad of ways, right? We can even translate it and move these around as well as rotate, right? So you can do that, and that's totally fine. And that's really, it's a really good, easy way to control your fingers. It's pretty common to do that. There's another way that you can do where you don't have to go through all these steps for all basically 10 fingers, and it gives a pretty wide range of motion, but not to like the fullest extent. So to kind of show you that, we'll set it up on our index finger. So again, we'll go to our control, our next control that we had created, and we'll name this our left pointer, and we'll just call this left pointer finger underscore C control. Okay, and then we'll copy that, and we will rename its parent group to match that with an underscore GRP. Okay, and then it's the same process here. We still want this control to match the orientation of our index finger. So we'll select this, and then we'll shift select that group, and we'll turn off our maintain offset in our parent constraint options and hit apply. So now that's up here, and we're going to move this real quick. So we'll scale this down, again hitting F8, and we want to rotate it up. So we're going to hold down our E key and then click, just a normal left click. And we're going to turn on the rotate object center, right? And then we're also, that's in those same keys, going to turn on our discrete rotate, which is also under our tool settings, so which gives us 45-degree absolute rotations. There we go. So we'll rotate it on top of the finger, and we'll scale that down. Okay. Perfect. With F8, we need to go back to our group of our control, and we need to delete that parent constraint. Don't need it anymore, and we're going to set up a new one from our control to actually control the joint of the index finger. So we'll create a parent constraint there. So nothing's different here than what we did on our thumb, right? It's the exact same process. Here it is. We'll turn off my discrete rotate. You can see it does the same thing, right? It's oriented with the joints. We can move it. We can rotate it. Lots of control there, okay? And you typically need a lot of that control here on this joint, especially where we're not creating extra cup joints that are back here to help the hand cup and flex and spread. We'll do that a lot on the animation side of this by translating and rotating our fingers around. And we'll do that on this level. So, but instead of going through and creating control here, knuckles, they really only bend in one axis. Okay? So what we're going to do, instead of going through that whole process, is we're going to select one. We're going to select our control here, and we're going to go up in our channel box, and we're going to go up to Edit, and we're going to add some attributes here. Okay, and the first attribute is going to be our, let's see, we'll call this the mid knuckle rotation, ROT, and it's just a float that we're going to add on here. So we will add that, and then we'll add another one. That is our tip knuckle rotation. Again, it's another float. We'll add that. Okay, so we have these. They obviously aren't going to do anything, but we're going to connect them up to our rotate Z on our fingers, so we get this, right? Which is pretty much what we're always going to be doing with these knuckles anyways. Okay, so we're going to select our left pointer finger control, shift select the knuckle, and we're going to pull up our connection editor. So underneath Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor, and this will auto-populate them according to the order that we selected them. So our left pointer finger control is over here on the left, and then the right, and then the knuckle is over here on the right. So, and if those don't populate, or you didn't select both of them and you just pulled that up, no worries, just select it and hit reload left, select the other one that you want on the right, reload right. Okay, we're going to go to the bottom of our list for our left pointer finger. That's where we're going to find all of our added attributes. We're going to take our mid-knuckle rotation, because that's controlling this mid-joint, and we're going to find our rotation channels, which are going to be grayed out, because rotation holds 3 values. So you kind of have to look for it, and here it is, right here. So we can open that up, and then these become highlighted because these are a match for the type of attribute that they are. So we want to control that rotate Z. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with our tip. So we'll select the tip, we'll reload the right, and then now we're going to select our tip knuckle rotation from our left pointer finger control and select that rotate Z. So we can see the yellow there is telling us these are connected and they're ready to go. So now I have pretty much full control from my finger here. For off of one control, I'm getting pretty much everything that I need just by having these attributes on the one control. So you can click on it, come out, middle mouse click back and forth to do the rotation, but it's going to get you a lot of what you need, and then you can adjust the position and orientation of your finger with your top node, which has a lot of that functionality that we're working with. So those are kind of two really simple ways to set up fingers. There are, of course, IK finger setups, which are similar to fingers and knees, and they're fine. They have their uses, but for me, it's such a small granular motion. It's not that difficult for the times that I need to have my finger run across a surface to just work with the FK chain setup. So yeah, that's it for setting up the hand. Really, it's just your standard conditioner, rinse and repeat process of going through and setting these all up, right? So yeah, typically we set up blue colors for our left side of of everything, and you could do that here, and that's totally fine. But when we get a lot of these controls stacking up on each other, it's sometimes nice to go in and switch up those colors a little bit, and kind of even just if you're alternating, like blue and yellow, or you could do a blue, a yellow, and another shade of blue. You can even throw in a red in there if you want, even though red is usually reserved for the right side. It just is a visual communicator. So we'll change this one to like a light blue. That. Okay. So we know that, hey, this is my pointer finger here, which is a slightly different color than what my thumb controls are set up at. So yeah, so either one is totally viable, totally acceptable, that you can go with for a setup on your fingers. But yeah, you're basically going to take that and set that up. And again, same thing. We want this to follow with our hand. So we'll take the whole group, we'll shift select that control, and we'll parent that to it. There we go. So now when we move our hand around, it's going to move with it. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not going to painstakingly go through and make you guys watch me set up all of this, as it's really just that same process over and over and over. But if you want a lot of control, the parent constraint on the whole FK setup is great. It will give you pretty much everything that you could possibly want to do on this, on your thumb, right? And this one, yeah, it breaks it up. If you were dying to have a twisting function, you could set up an attribute here for a twist that would control the rotate X, right, in our channel connection here to give it some twist. And we obviously don't have anything for that right now. But like I said, you're not going to find that a whole lot. We can get a whole twist on the finger just from that base joint. So yeah, okay, that is pretty much it. The one thing here is this IK-FK switch is not a child of anything here. So we're just going to make it a child of the upper back control, which is going up the spine there. It won't really matter except in cases where we're inheriting a lot of stuff from our controls from their parents, like scale, but we won't be dealing with a whole lot of that here. So we'll just shift select that and parent it so it's part of that group. Cool. All right, that is the setup here. And then really the next thing is when we do our actual switch and we turn on our IK, we don't have anything in place to control that great wonkiness. So you can do the same thing that we did on our legs with the no flipping solution that we have, or you can do a pull vector constraint to tie that down. So we can certainly do that. We'll create another curve here, and we will go in and we're going to go to the history here, and we're going to make this, instead of the degree being cubic, we'll make it linear. That gives us an octagon, and maybe we'll just do 6 sides There we go. All right, and then we're going to group that to itself. Okay, and we're going to have this just be a pull vector. We're just going to set up a simple pull vector. Now, when you set up a joint chain and it is perfectly on an axis, then that's great for pull vectors. Like we did with our legs, we went straight up and down. There was no movement, no weird rotation or anything on it. And we can set up a pull vector control that we just move forward on our Z axis, and it's great. However, with our hand, we kind of put it off kilter with our arm of a straight line. Okay, so it isn't 100, it's really close. It may look like it is, but it isn't. And we need our pull vector to live on the same plane that our IK joints are set up on. And so to create a kind of perfect marrying of the two. So this is how we do that. Okay, first off, we're going to name our control. Okay, so this is going to be our left elbow underscore PV for pull vector underscore C control. And we will copy that and paste it to the parent group with an underscore. There we go. With an underscore GRP group. And then we're going to take that group and we're going to snap it to our elbow. So we're just going to move the whole thing right there. Let's make sure we're right on it. Okay. We are good. Then we'll take this and we'll hit F8 and we're going to turn back on our discrete rotate. Again, just holding down E and clicking down and holding both of those to bring up the marking menu. And then I'm just going to rotate this like this. Okay. And I'll leave it big for right now so I can select it real easily. Okay. So normally if this joint chain was set up exactly right, we would just take that group of that control and we would just move it straight back on the Z. And that would be fine. However, I think when we set this up, it was slightly off of 100% straight. So how do you get on a plane that and stay on a plane that doesn't, that isn't perfectly level with one of your normal axes or axes of X, Y, or Z? Okay, that is the trick. So what we're going to do is we're going to cheat here. We're going to go in and we're going to make, well, it's not really cheating, but it's a great trick. So we're going to make a plane. Okay, and this plane, we're going to go to its inputs, the polyplane here. We don't need a ton of points. So we're just going to say all the subdivisions are at 1. It's just one object here. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this up. We'll do the same thing and snap it to our joint. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into component mode on this. So we'll hit F8. We're going to delete one of these because we don't need one of them. So we just have a triangle. Okay? And then each of these points we're going to take and we are just going to move and snap it to each of our joints in this joint chain. Okay? So we've got one snap to the shoulder. We'll snap this one over to the wrist. And then we'll snap this one to the elbow. And if I hit 4 so you can see that, it's created a plane. Okay, and this plane is the same plane that our joints are on. Okay, and the same plane that if it goes on forever and ever, our pull vector would be on. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to hit F8 to come back out. And now we're going to scale this whole thing. Just that plane. Okay, we're going to do a uniform scale. And we're just going to be crazy big about it. And maybe what we'll do is we'll go We'll go a minus on our z so that we get going the other way. There we go. Okay, and that keeps us all on this plane. So now we've got this plane here, which is exactly the same plane that our arm is on, that we want our pole vector to live on. So what we're gonna do is, with that selected, we're gonna come up and we're gonna select this magnet here to make this a live object. Okay, and so when it is alive, anything that we move, this now is going to act like a planet, basically, with its own gravity, and everything's going to stick and slide on this surface, no matter how we move it. So we're going to take this pole vector group, and we're going to move it, and when I move it on all three, it's going to float and live on this object. No matter how we move it or what angle we're at, it's going to keep it to that. Now obviously we can break this if we just select one of these axes of our X, Y, or Z, but we want it to live here. So I'm just going to take it from here and I'm going to come back about like that. That looks good. Okay, and then we're going to come up and we're going to undo our live object just by clicking that same magnet, and then we can delete that plane. We don't need it anymore. So this is kind of big, so again we'll go to our components and grab these control points, and we will scale them down. Okay, just like that. All right, and then we need our IK handle here, which is going to be in as a child here. So here's our arm, okay, right here. So we need to select our control and then select our left IK arm right here. And then we're going to go up to constrain. We're going to create a pole vector constraint. Okay, oh, there was a little twist on there, which I do not care for. Let me make sure. Oh, you're set here. We're on that plane, so it shouldn't have done that unless when I reversed that plane on the X, it might have thrown it off from that point. Okay, but I wouldn't stress about it too much. You've still got a control that is here. And then what we'll do is we will create a constraint to kind of follow our, we actually want to follow the IK shoulder and not the skinned shoulder. However, it probably won't make a difference since when we switch it on and off, and when this will have effect will only be when we're in our IK mode. So I think we can get away with just selecting our normal shoulder here and then going to that left pole vector group and creating a parent constraint with the maintain offset on. Ooh, didn't like that. Really didn't like that. Boy. Okay, so what we'll do instead, it did not like that, is we're going to take our group and we're going to hit insert and we're going to move the pivot point of that group over. So by holding V, you can snap it over to the joint. Okay. And now it is there. So insert. Okay. And then hopefully that will eliminate some of that issue that we were having. Yep, there we go. Okay, so yeah, with that set at the same spot, fewer issues because it's much closer to the origin of what's controlling it. And then it kind of gives us a little bit of a cheat because it's going to keep that control back behind it. Right? Rotate it down so it's always kind of pointing there. And you can always set up like a constraint on this group from our world orient group and create a little switch if you wanted to control that. But that pretty much does it for setting up our arms. So you just need to do it on the other side as well and decide which method you want to use. But both give you some pretty good results. So yeah, and then this controls our elbow, and then when we do our switch, there's that. And then what we can do, because we don't actually want this on when we don't need it, so we are going to select our control and shift select the pull vector control from our IK, and we're going to bring up our connection editor again. So I will reload this, and then because we've already set this visibility up, or actually it might be it. Is this controls visibility? So we're just going to connect those two visibilities together, and that will automatically turn this on and off for us. So go in, find our visibility right here. We'll load our pull vector on this side, and we will find our visibility here. And then if we turn this off, it turns that off as well. Perfect. Okay, that is your setup that finishes up everything for the arms. And now we're really, really close, almost done. So things are looking good. Okay, all right, good luck. Hope this works. If you have questions, go ahead and leave a comment, and I will try to get to it as best as I can. All right, good luck. Thanks.